You think being strong means feeling nothing. You are wrong. Somewhere, someone said something about you today, and it is still running through your head. A comment, a silence, a look that lasted 1 second too long, a message left unread. That's not sensitivity. That's a leash. And someone else is holding the other end of it, whether they know it or not. Here is what almost nobody tells you. The people who seem impossible to shake, the ones who stay level while everyone else spirals, are not colder than you. They are not emptier than you. They have not simply gotten over more than you have. They have stopped handing out the leash. There is a name for this state, and it has nothing to do with numbness. Psychologists studying the deepest layers of the mind called it psychological autonomy. The point where nothing outside you, criticism, rejection, manipulation, other people's opinions, has the power to move you anymore. Not because you stopped feeling, because you stopped needing. And if you are still reacting to every word, every glance, every silence, replaying conversations at 2 a.m., rehearsing comebacks you will never say, you are not just sensitive. You are being operated by someone else's hands. By the end of this, you will understand exactly how that leash got built into you in the first place, piece by piece, wound by wound, and exactly how it comes off for good. Stay. Because what you don't know about this is already costing you something right now, today, in ways you probably haven't even noticed yet. Let's start with the promise, and it is a big one. This is not a video about becoming colder. It is not about building walls, going numb, or pretending things don't hurt. That version of strength is a costume. It looks impressive from a distance. It cracks the first time life pushes hard enough, and when it cracks all at once. Real emotional untouchability is something else entirely. It is a state where you can feel everything fully without any of it filtered or dulled, and still not be moved from your center. Where someone can insult you, ignore you, try on purpose to provoke you, and it simply does not land. Not because you blocked it with effort, because there was nothing left inside you for it to grab onto. Think of two people standing in the same storm. One braces against the wind, rigid, jaw clenched, exhausted, ready to snap. The other bends with it, absorbs it, and keeps walking, soaked but unbroken. Both of them feel the storm completely. Only one of them is controlled by it. That difference is not personality. It is not luck. It is not something you're either born with or without. It is psychological architecture built through specific, identifiable mechanisms, and it can be built deliberately by you. And this is not a small claim. 3 of the most rigorous minds in the history of psychology, working decades apart, sometimes disagreeing violently with each other, kept circling the exact same conclusion from different angles. What makes you controllable is never the outside world. It's what the outside world finds already waiting inside you. Freud mapped where that material comes from. Jung mapped how it gets triggered. Lacan mapped why you keep feeding it willingly over and over. Put the 3 mechanisms together and you get a complete blueprint, not just of why you're reactive, but of exactly what has to change for that to stop. To understand how, we have to go back to the man who first mapped why a single word, a single glance, can hijack an entire nervous system in seconds. Sigmund Freud. Freud spent years studying something strange, something that should bother you more than it probably does. Why do certain triggers, small, ordinary, seemingly harmless on the surface, produce reactions completely out of proportion to what actually happened? He found part of his answer in a child named Hans. Little Hans developed an intense, paralyzing fear of horses. Not because a horse had ever hurt him. Not because anything about horses, objectively, deserved that level of terror. The horse itself was almost irrelevant. What mattered was what the horse had come to represent inside his mind, unconsciously, without his permission, fears and conflicts that already existed, long before the horse ever crossed his path. The horse was just the trigger. The real material was already loaded, waiting for a shape to attach itself to. This is the first mechanism you need to understand about being touchable. An insult, a rejection, a cold text message, a friend who didn't invite you, these things do not create pain out of nothing. They cannot. They detonate something that was already there, sitting quietly, fully assembled, waiting for a match. Think about the last time someone's comment ruined your entire day. Not just annoyed you for a minute, ruined it. Was it really about what they said? Or did it land directly on a place that was already sore, already bracing, already primed to react before they even opened their mouth? That's why the exact same sentence can destroy one person and bounce completely off another. It's not the sentence. It's what the sentence finds waiting when it lands. Picture two employees hearing identical feedback from a manager. This needs more work. One shrugs, makes a note, moves on with their afternoon. The other spirals for hours, replaying it, questioning their entire career. Same 6 words. 2 completely different explosions or none at all. The manager didn't create that gap. The gap was already sitting there, loaded, long before the meeting started. The pattern doesn't end in childhood. It just changes costumes. An adult who grew up constantly compared to a sibling will feel their whole body tense the moment a partner mentions someone else's success, even in passing, even with zero intent to wound. The partner isn't the trigger. The partner is standing exactly where the sibling used to stand, decades earlier, without knowing it. And here is the uncomfortable part, the part worth sitting with for a second. If a stranger's opinion, a stranger you may never see again, can control your mood, your focus, your entire day, they are not just talking. They are operating a lever. And here's the twist that makes this so hard to accept. You built that lever yourself years ago without realizing it, out of every moment you were told to feel small, wrong, or not enough. So the question becomes sharper. What exactly is that lever made of? What is it, precisely, that other people are reaching for, consciously or not, when they provoke you? That answer takes us to Carl Jung, and to a concept he was almost obsessed with, because he saw it operating in every patient who walked through his door. Jung called it a complex. Not complex, the way we use it casually today, like, he has a superiority complex. Jung meant something more specific and far more unsettling. A complex is a cluster of emotion, memory, and belief, usually formed around an old, unresolved wound, that behaves almost like a separate mind living inside your mind. It sits quietly, most of the time, invisible even to you, until something touches it. And when it's touched, it does not ask permission. It takes over. You don't choose the reaction in that moment. The complex reacts for you, faster than thought, faster than reason. This is why certain people seem to know exactly which button to press, almost instantly, sometimes within the first conversation. They are not psychic. They are simply pattern matching, whether deliberately or instinctively. They watch. They notice what makes you flinch, freeze, over-explain, defend, or explode. And once they find it, once they've located the wire, they effectively hold a remote control. Every manipulative dynamic you have ever been caught in, at work, in a friendship, in a relationship, runs on this exact mechanism, dressed in different clothing each time. Someone maps your complexes, patiently, often without even naming what they're doing. Then they poke them, on purpose, precisely, to control your response, your mood, your compliance. Watch it happen in an office. A coworker learns, early on, that you shrink the moment your competence gets questioned publicly. From then on, that's the only lever they need. Not threats. Not confrontation. Just one well-placed comment about your work in front of the right people at the right meeting, and you spend the next hour proving yourself instead of doing your job. They didn't win an argument. They found a wire and they pulled it casually, almost without effort. Here's the part that should genuinely disturb you if you let it. The targets are almost never random weaknesses. They are almost always the exact wounds you have spent your whole life trying to hide, the ones you thought you had already dealt with, packed away, outgrown. So the untouchable person, the one who never seems to break, is not someone with fewer wounds than you. That's the myth. They are someone whose wounds are no longer hidden targets, because they have already been faced, named out loud, and integrated. There is nothing left in the dark for someone to sneak up on. But before we get to how that integration actually happens, step by step, there is a pause worth taking. If any of this is landing, if you're already thinking of a specific person, a specific sentence, hit subscribe now, because this channel exists to keep mapping exactly how the mind builds these invisible leashes, and exactly how, mechanically, they get removed. And while you're here, write in the comments one sentence, just one, that captures a moment when you realize someone else had more control over your mood than you did. You'll be surprised how many people relate to the exact same sentence. Now, back to the mechanism, because there's a second target you're being read for constantly, and it might be the biggest one of all. It's your need for approval. This is where Jacques Lacan enters the picture, and his idea here is almost brutal in its simplicity once you actually sit with it. Lacan argued that human desire is never really, purely, about the object sitting in front of you. It is about the desire of another person. You don't just want things for their own sake. You want to be wanted. You want to matter, specifically, in someone else's eyes. Watch a small child glance at their parent right after doing something impressive, a jump, a drawing, a somersault. They are not just proud in that moment. They are checking. Did it land? Did I matter to you right now? That checking never fully disappears as we grow up. It just gets dressed up in adult clothing, a promotion, a like count, a text back within 5 minutes instead of 50. As long as that checking is quietly running the show behind the scenes, you are, in Lacan's terms, chasing the other's desire instead of living your own, uninterrupted. And here is why that makes you controllable, precisely and mechanically. If your sense of worth depends on being seen a certain way by certain people, then anyone who controls how you are seen or threatens to change it controls you. Withhold approval and you scramble to earn it back. Threaten the image and you comply quietly, almost automatically. Think about it honestly. How many decisions have you made this year, not because you actually wanted to, but because you were afraid of what someone would think of you if you didn't? You see it most clearly online. A post goes up, then the phone stays close, waiting for the number to climb. Not because the number changes anything real about the day, because somewhere underneath it feels like evidence. Proof that the checking child still watching for a nod got one. Delete the post if the number stays low, and notice how fast the mood follows it down. That's not vanity. That's the other's desire running quietly 24 hours a day on a screen you carry in your pocket. The untouchable person has not stopped caring about people, and this is important because the alternative sounds like coldness and it isn't. They have stopped needing the other's desire to validate their own sense of self. The difference is small on paper. It is enormous in practice, and it changes everything downstream of it. Because once approval stops being required to feel whole, it can no longer be used as leverage against you. The transaction simply has nothing left to trade on. That single shift is the hinge this entire video turns on. Once you stop needing the nod, the leash Freud described has nothing left to pull against. But here is where most people get this dangerously wrong, and it's worth stopping on before we go any further. There is a fake version of untouchability, and it is everywhere, disguised as maturity. It looks like shutting down, going cold, deciding quietly that you simply won't let anything in anymore. Freud had a name for this too, and it is not the same thing as healing, no matter how similar it looks from the outside. It is suppression, pushing the feeling down, out of sight, and calling the resulting silence peace. Suppression feels like strength for a while. That's exactly the trap, and it's why so many people fall for their own performance. But a suppressed wound does not disappear just because it's been buried. It waits patiently, sometimes for years. And it tends to leak out sideways eventually, in outbursts you didn't see coming, in relationships you sabotage without knowing why, in a calm that shatters instantly the moment the wrong sentence lands at the wrong time, in front of the wrong person. Freud's actual answer, the harder one, was different. He called it working through. Not avoiding the material and hoping it stays buried. Going into it, deliberately, naming it precisely, understanding exactly where it came from, until it stops having teeth, until it becomes just a fact about your history instead of a live wire. That is the difference between fake untouchability and real untouchability. One buries the wound and hopes nobody digs. The other disarms it completely so the digging finds nothing. It shows up at family dinners more than almost anywhere else. Someone who swore they'd made peace with a parent's old criticism sits perfectly composed for 2 hours, until one offhand comment, barely even aimed at them, sends the whole table into a silence nobody saw coming. That wasn't a random overreaction. That was years of suppressed material finally finding an opening it had been waiting for the entire time. Ask yourself honestly right now, when you say something doesn't bother you anymore, is that actually true? Or is it just buried a little deeper than it used to be, dressed up as indifference? Because if it's buried, someone will eventually find it, deliberately or by accident. And when they do, it will detonate exactly the way it always did, maybe worse because you thought you were past it. Watch someone who's been fine about a breakup for a year, calm, composed, dating again, seemingly untouched. Then a song comes on in a grocery store, completely by accident, and they're standing in the cereal aisle fighting back tears they didn't see coming. That's not weakness resurfacing. That's the bill for suppression, arriving late at the worst possible moment, exactly where it can't be controlled. Real integration is slower. It's less comfortable in the short term, sometimes painfully so. But it is the only version that actually holds under real pressure, not just calm conditions. So how does that integration actually happen, mechanically? This is where we go back to Jung, and to the piece of his theory that most people quietly avoid because it's uncomfortable to look at directly: the shadow. The shadow is everything about yourself you have rejected, hidden, or simply refused to look at directly. The anger you were told as a child was unacceptable. The neediness you were shamed for showing. The ambition, the jealousy, the fear, the pettiness you decided was too ugly to admit even to yourself. Jung's claim was almost unbearable in its precision. What you refuse to face in yourself does not vanish just because you looked away from it. It gets projected outward onto other people instead, and it keeps quietly running your reactions from the shadows, unseen, unnamed, but fully operational. This is why certain people irritate you far more than the actual situation warrants, disproportionately, instantly. This is why certain accusations land like a physical punch, even when they're not entirely true, even when you know they're not entirely true. The shadow doesn't need facts to be triggered, just needs a nerve. Notice the person who cannot stand seeing someone else brag openly, unapologetically. The irritation feels moral, justified, even righteous. But underneath it, more often than not, sits a piece of ambition that person was taught, early and firmly, to be ashamed of. The bragger isn't the problem. The bragger is a mirror held up at exactly the wrong angle. Shadow work, in plain terms, means going and finding those disowned pieces on purpose, deliberately, with your eyes open. Looking directly at the parts of yourself you've spent years carefully avoiding. Not to become them, not to act them out. To stop being ambushed by them in the exact moments you can least afford it. Because here is the mechanism, stated as plainly as possible. You cannot be destabilized by something you have already faced. Once you have looked directly, without flinching, at your own jealousy, your own fear, your own desperate need to be liked, nobody can use it as a surprise weapon against you anymore. You got there first. There's nothing left to discover. This is the actual engine behind untouchability, the real mechanism underneath the calm exterior. Not indifference, not distance, reconnaissance. You mapped your own wounds completely before anyone else could ever use them against you. And once that mapping is done, something strange, almost immediate, starts to happen to the people around you. They start to lose their grip. And they will not like. This is the part almost nobody talks about, and it's the sharpest edge of this entire transformation. The people who used to provoke you, predict you, or manipulate you, sometimes for years, built their entire strategy around your old, reliable reactions. They know exactly which sentence makes you defensive. They know exactly which silence makes you chase, apologize, explain yourself. They have a map of you drawn carefully over time, and for years that map worked perfectly. When you stop reacting the way you used to, without announcing it, without explaining it, the map stops working. Silently. All at once. And people generally do not respond well when their map of you suddenly stops working. Think of it like a chess player who has memorized your every opening move for years. Every game starts the same way, and every game they win because they already know exactly where you'll go before you go there. Then one day you play a completely different game. Not a trick. Not a strategy borrowed from somewhere else. Just you actually thinking for yourself for the first time in a long time. Watch the confusion on their face. That confusion is not a coincidence, and it is not personal in the way it might feel. It's simply what happens when a prediction relied on for years suddenly stops holding. Watch what happens closely if you pay attention. The same person who could once destabilize you with a single sentence now sends something sharper, hoping the old reaction finally shows up like it always did. When it doesn't, they escalate. Because on some level your calm feels, to them, like a rejection of their power over you. This is Lacan's mechanism turning back on itself, almost poetically. They needed your reaction to confirm they still mattered to you, that they still had access. Your silence removes that confirmation entirely. And the removal of that confirmation is, for a manipulator, genuinely unbearable. There is a strange grief hiding underneath their agitation if you look closely enough. Losing control over you means losing a role they had built an entire identity around. The provoker, the one who could always get a rise, the one who mattered enough to disturb your peace. Take that role away without a single word of explanation, and you're not just changing your own behavior. You're quietly retiring a part they didn't know how to live without. So understand this clearly and hold on to it. If you start becoming untouchable and the people around you get more agitated, not less, more unpredictable, not calmer, that is not a sign you're doing something wrong. That is the exact proof that it's working. The old lever just stopped moving and they can feel it. And here is the mechanism behind why silence, specifically, carries so much weight in this transformation. Silence does not feed the loop. Every reaction you give, defense, anger, over-explaining, even a long justified rant, is fuel. It confirms the trigger worked. It keeps the entire game running round after round. Non-reaction stars it completely at the root. Picture the exact moment someone throws a line designed to wound, sharp, deliberate, calculated for maximum reaction. In the old pattern, you'd answer immediately, defend, explain, maybe even attack back, and the exchange would spiral for another 10 minutes. In the new pattern, there's just a pause. Nothing performed, nothing cold, just nothing to hand over. Watch their face in that pause. That's the moment the old map fails in real time right in front of them. This is not about pretending to be calm while boiling underneath. It's the natural, effortless output of someone who has already done the internal work, someone with nothing left hidden for a provocation to actually find. Now, there is one more piece here, because untouchability, done wrong, can curdle into something else entirely, something almost as limiting as the original leash, and that trap is worth naming clearly before we close. Some people mistake this entire journey for permission to look down on everyone still caught in the old pattern, the reactive one. That is not individuation. That is not freedom. That is just the ego finding a new, more sophisticated costume to wear. The actual sign of integration is not superiority. It's quiet. You are no longer trying to prove to anyone that you've evolved past them. You simply, without announcement, aren't playing the old game anymore. There's a real difference between walking away from a fight and walking around loudly announcing you're above fighting altogether. One is freedom, plain and simple. The other is just a new leash worn with pride instead of shame, but a leash all the same. So here is the paradox this entire video has been quietly building toward from the very first sentence. You might assume that becoming untouchable means becoming distant, isolated, unreachable, cold, alone at the top of some imaginary mountain. The opposite, it turns out, is true. As long as you needed people's reactions to feel okay about yourself, you were never really present with them, not fully. You were performing for approval, bracing for rejection, managing an image in real time, constantly. That is not connection. That is a transaction, dressed up carefully to look like intimacy. Once you stop needing anything from the room, you can finally actually be in the room, fully present. Without the constant background calculation of how you're landing, how you're being received, what they'll think. That is the real payoff, the one nobody advertises. Not distance from people. Presence with them for the first time in years without a leash attached to either end. So here is the choice, and it is binary whether that's comfortable to hear or not. You can keep handing people the remote, reacting, defending, chasing approval you'll never fully secure, letting old wounds get found and used against you again and again by different people wearing different faces. Or you can go and find those wounds first, deliberately, on your own terms. Face the complex before someone else weaponizes it against you. Work through instead of suppress, however uncomfortable that process is. Meet your own shadow in daylight, before it meets you unexpectedly in the dark. Nothing outside you gets to decide which one you choose. Not this time. That decision is entirely, uncomfortably, permanently yours. 3 thinkers, 3 angles, 1 conclusion. The wound gets planted early. The complex gets found and pulled by someone else. The need for approval keeps the whole cycle fed, quietly, in the background for years, sometimes for a lifetime, unless something interrupts it on purpose. There is no deadline on this choice, and there is also no version of your life where it doesn't matter. Every day you postpone it, the old lever stays exactly where it's always been, within easy reach of anyone willing to grab it. Every day you actually do the work, name the wound, face the complex, sit with the shadow, that lever gets a little harder to find until eventually, there's simply nothing left to grab. If this changed how you see your own reactions even slightly, subscribe, because we are going to keep mapping exactly how the mind gets built this way, and exactly how, piece by piece, it gets rebuilt on your own terms, not theirs. The leash was never as real or as permanent as it felt. Go take it off.